In the summer of 1943, across a wide bulge in the front lines of Eastern Europe, two massive armies prepared for a confrontation that would become the largest tank battle in history. Fields of wheat and small villages lay under the blazing sun, deceptively calm, while beneath the surface, thousands of mines were buried. Trenches zigzagged across farmland, and anti-tank guns waited in carefully prepared positions. The coming storm near Kursk would not be a sudden surprise attack, but a deliberate, fully anticipated collision of armored power, where preparation, intelligence, and endurance would decide the outcome. After earlier defeats on the Eastern Front, German command sought to regain momentum with a massive offensive aimed at pinching off the Kursk salient. The plan, known as Operation Citadel, called for armored thrusts from north and south to encircle Soviet forces trapped inside the bulge. Elite German units equipped with advanced tanks like the Panther and Tiger prepared for what they hoped would be a decisive breakthrough. On the other side, Soviet leadership, forewarned by intelligence, chose not to preempt the attack, but to absorb it. Instead of rushing forward, they built one of the most extensive defensive networks of the war. Layered minefields, anti-tank ditches, fortified strongpoints, artillery zones, and concealed reserves waiting behind the lines. When the offensive began in July, artillery fire lit up the horizon before dawn. The earth trembled as thousands of guns opened up in coordinated barrages. German armored columns rolled forward behind creeping artillery, engines roaring, tracks grinding into dusty soil. From a distance, the sight was awe-inspiring. Rows of steel machines advancing in formation, infantry riding atop some vehicles, others moving in support. But as they approached the Soviet defenses, reality struck quickly. Minefields exploded beneath tracks, immobilizing tanks and turning them into targets. Anti-tank guns hidden in hedgerows and trenches fired from prepared kill zones. Smoke, dust, and fire swallowed visibility. The northern push slowed almost immediately. Thick belts of defense forced German units to fight for every kilometer. Engineers moved forward under fire to clear mines, while recovery crews tried to tow damaged vehicles out of exposed areas. Infantry assaults supported the armor, clearing trenches and strongpoints in brutal close combat. Yet the depth of Soviet defenses meant that even a successful breach in one line only revealed another behind it. In the south, the advance gained more ground. German armored units moved faster, pushing toward the small town of Prokhorovka, where the terrain opened into rolling fields. Here, Soviet commanders committed large tank reserves to counterattack. The stage was set for one of the most intense armored clashes of the war. On July 12th, near Prokhorovka, hundreds of tanks from both sides converged across open ground. Visibility was limited by dust and smoke, reducing engagement distances to frighteningly close quarters. Instead of long-range duels, tanks often found themselves firing at point-blank range. Some collided physically in the chaos. Artillery shells burst overhead, aircraft roared above strafing and bombing concentrations of armor. The battlefield became a chaotic swirl of movement, T-34s charging forward, German Tigers firing powerful shells that could penetrate at long range, self-propelled guns maneuvering for better angles, infantry clinging to whatever cover they could find. Command and control grew difficult. Radios crackled with urgent messages, but confusion reigned as units lost contact or misjudged positions. While German tanks often had superior optics and armor, Soviet forces compensated with numbers, mobility, and relentless counterattacks. Waves of tanks pressed forward, sometimes accepting heavy losses to disrupt German formations. The sheer density of fighting reduced technological advantages. Dust clouds obscured targeting, wrecked vehicles blocked lines of sight, burning machines created walls of flame and smoke. Air power played a major role as well. Aircraft from both sides attacked concentrations of armor and supply routes. The skies above Kursk saw constant dogfights and bombing runs. Ground troops often felt exposed, scanning the sky for approaching aircraft, even as they faced threats on land. Anti-aircraft guns fired continuously, trying to protect advancing or defending units from aerial assault. Logistics became critical. Fuel consumption for armored units was enormous, and damaged supply routes slowed delivery. Ammunition had to be transported forward under threat of artillery and air attack. Repair crews worked tirelessly behind the lines, salvaging damaged tanks, replacing tracks, patching armor plates, and sending vehicles back into battle when possible.
As days passed, it became clear that the German offensive was losing momentum.
The depth of Soviet defenses, combined with heavy losses and limited reserves, prevented a decisive breakthrough. Meanwhile, Soviet counteroffensives began launching on adjacent fronts, forcing German command to divert attention and resources. The initiative slowly shifted. What made Kursk extraordinary was not a sudden collapse or surprise maneuver, but the deliberate nature of the confrontation. Both sides entered the battle expecting immense losses. Both understood the strategic stakes. Yet the preparation on one side, defensive belts, intelligence awareness, and carefully timed counterattacks, proved decisive in blunting the assault. For the soldiers involved, the experience was overwhelming. Tank crews endured deafening interior noise, heat, and the constant fear of penetration that could turn their vehicle into a coffin within seconds. Infantry moved through fields littered with twisted metal and craters, stepping past wrecked machines still smoldering. Medics treated burns, shrapnel wounds, and shock in improvised aid stations. Engineers cleared mines under fire, knowing that a single misstep meant instant death. Civilians in nearby villages had little escape from the scale of destruction. Homes became defensive positions or were destroyed in crossfire. Fields that once grew crops were churned into cratered wastelands. The environmental toll was immense, with landscapes scarred for years afterward. Strategically, the failure of the German offensive at Kursk marked the last major attempt to regain initiative in the east. Afterward, Soviet forces increasingly dictated the tempo of operations, launching offensives that pushed westward relentlessly. Kursk did not end the war on the Eastern Front, but it solidified a turning point, demonstrating that the balance of power had shifted decisively. For modern audiences, Kursk represents the peak of mechanized warfare in the Second World War. It showcases the evolution of tank tactics, the integration of air and ground forces, and the importance of intelligence and preparation. It also underscores a sobering truth. Even the most advanced machines depend on logistics, coordination, and human resilience. The clash of steel at Kursk was more than a test of armor thickness or gun caliber. It was a contest of planning versus ambition, defense versus offense, and endurance versus momentum. Beneath the summer sun of 1943, thousands of armored vehicles and countless soldiers collided in a battle that echoed across continents. When the guns fell silent and smoke cleared, the fields around Kursk were strewn with wreckage, silent reminders of one of history's greatest armored confrontations. The battle stands a testament to the scale and ferocity of total war, a moment when entire armies committed their strongest forces in open confrontation, and when the outcome reshaped the course of a global conflict.